Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you may be watching this video. I have an article from just a couple of days ago, and it's from the Moscow Times dated September 30th, 2024. And the title of this article reads, Russian military to have authority over nuclear strike conditions, Kremlin says. Russia's defense ministry will soon have the authority to determine whether the conditions for using nuclear weapons are met, the Kremlin said Sunday, following announced plans to revise the country's nuclear doctrine. This is the prerogative of our specialists, our military, who are closely monitoring the weapons used and how they are being employed, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told journalists. He said the military is responsible for tracking the direct involvement of Western countries in the war in Ukraine. Peskov confirmed that recently announced amendments to Russia's nuclear doctrine are taking shape and will be legally formalized soon. These changes, he said, are necessary due to the growing role of nuclear powers in the war in Ukraine and NATO's expanded presence near Russia's borders. Last week, President Vladimir Putin revealed plans to broaden the rules governing Moscow's use of nuclear weapons, allowing for a nuclear response in the event of a massive air attack. The proposed changes would also treat attacks by non nuclear countries supported by nuclear powers as joint attacks by both. Peskov said Thursday that the planned changes must be considered a specific signal to Western countries as they consider whether to allow Ukraine to fire long range missiles deep inside Russian territory. So, where in the United States you have the president that has the sole decision making concerning the use of nuclear weapons, the Kremlin is saying that they are going to pass on similar authorities to the military commanders. So, in essence, what they're saying is that those field commanders that are conducting war, if they determine that a nuclear weapon is needed, they have the authority to give the go ahead for a nuclear attack. What would happen if one of these commanders, maybe he's had a little bit to drink, a little bit of the vodka, and he just decided he wanted to launch? He's got the authority. That's a pretty scary thing where you have multiple people that can make decisions like those. Again, last week, President Vladimir Putin revealed plans to broaden the rules governing Moscow's use of nuclear weapons, allowing for a nuclear response in the event of a massive air attack. This, you have to listen to this closely. The proposed changes would also treat attacks by non-nuclear countries supported by nuclear powers as joint attacks by both. So think about this. Ukraine is currently a non-nuclear country. And let's say that they fire this massive air attack on Moscow. And the decisions and the actions are backed by the U.S. and NATO. Well, U.S. and NATO, they're nuclear powers. And so, according to what this says, Russia, would hold both Ukraine and the U.S. responsible. They would be both considered guilty for the attack. So think about that. And then Peskov said Thursday that the planned changes must be considered a specific signal to Western countries as they consider whether to allow Ukraine to fire long range missiles deep inside Russian territory. The United States, as far as I know, is still pondering the idea of giving Ukraine the go ahead to use U.S. and NATO long-range missiles to fire deep inside of Russia. And according to these new policies, if that were to happen, then Russia would consider at least at a minimum, the U.S. guilty for the attack as much as they would hold Ukraine guilty. And I don't know, maybe a week or so ago, Vladimir Putin said that if this happens, if Ukraine is given the go-ahead to use U.S.-made long-range missiles to fire deep within Russia, he said both sides of the Atlantic would suffer. And that means that he would then attack Europe as well as the United States. So this new nuclear doctrine that the Kremlin is adopting or has adopted is a very dangerous thing. And when you have more than one person that can decide to push the button, anything can happen. I hope you're paying attention to what's going on in the world. It's not only the Middle East that we have to be concerned about, but don't trust in any man to make anything different. When man gets in the way, there's just problems. Trust in the Lord Jesus Christ. Only he can make a difference, a true and lasting difference.